of weather and power outages last week. And
thank you. Moving on to trustees' reports, Mrs. Lucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, we certainly had our bout of weather and power outages last week in some of the areas like Lilly and Meredith. Thank you, Andy, for working with the residents to help them follow up and to work with our First Energy liaison to see that that power gets restored. We do know we may have some issues over there, and we are working on finding solutions to prevent those occurrences. We appreciate everyone's patience. Also, thanks to our service department for taking care of our roads and for being out there in the cold, and we appreciate them. And also, we appreciate the linemen taking care of those power lines, so thank you. I know I've mentioned this at each meeting, but I did get a contact from a resident who's concerned about our recent levee failure and how we are going to manage. And then we did discuss some options, probably looking at cuts going forward, and let them know we're trying to balance our budget with what we think is safe for our community. Safety is always a priority. We appreciate residents reaching out and asking questions. I did have a few residents also call about a recent zoning development. There was a meeting for BZA last week, and the board decided to table so that decision will be heard in February. Right. If residents have questions, they can watch the meeting on our YouTube from our website. We did get a lot of emails regarding this as well. I think it's just important that residents understand that some of this zoning that is in place before they actually move, that would help understand what is kind of at the table. On a sad note, I did attend the calling hours today for Mr. Dennis Morley, right, who passed away, mayor of Eastlake. Great man, great public servant, wonderful, cherished family member. It just reminds me of how fragile life is, how we need to make sure that we don't worry about the small things and just be grateful, live each day, and we wish him and his family well. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. McIntosh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, as Mrs. Lucci said, we did have some weather activity and some problems, and I did also communicate with some folks on Lily Lane, and I do appreciate Mr. Rose picking up that and dealing with First Energy and our government relations rep, and I know we've got some legwork. I think one of the things we'd like to try to do is stay on top of that, because we had those problems last summer as well, and try to see what is going on and at least get clarity out of First Energy as to what residents can expect. So appreciate everybody's work on that one. Last week, Thursday last, Mr. Rose and I attended the Ohio Senate Housing Subcommittee. They're going around. They have I jokingly call it a road show, where you don't have to go to them. They come to you, and they've had a series of hearings. The OTA has asked townships to speak and contact the representatives. One of the things that I spoke to address was the idea of statewide uniform zoning, and kind of found out about it last minute, but got in there and talked about why that would be detrimental. But in preparing my remarks, I did a bit of a look back at Concord and see what we've done. One of the things that we saw folks from Cleveland and different areas talking about affordable housing and cost of housing and income levels. And what I told the Senate committee was that, while solutions there work, maybe not for us, but I took a look back at what Concord Township has done, and we adopted a strategic plan in the early part of this new millennium, in the early 2000s, adopted a strategic plan, did some research, did a plan, did an update to that plan, and have developed. Concord Township's grown in 20 years. We've adapted to the changing housing market by adopting the conservation zoning, so we're getting a little bit more density, but we're conserving open space, and we've adopted more multifamily housing, or a little bit more density, not high, but more dense in Concord's history, in the cluster homes and the multifamily units we're putting in. And so I feel like the township, appropriate for our community, have adapted to this crisis. And if you didn't know, the state of Ohio is short about 100,000 housing units a year in construction, so it's not a small problem that they're trying to solve. And nationally, there's more to it than that. So it was an interesting morning. We were there for 2/3 of the session. Yes, got to hear a lot of people speak. I want to thank Andy for speaking with me as well. I also entertained some, speaking of housing and zoning, did field some lengthy conversations and some emails about that BZA hearing. And again, we're working off of a strategic plan that's at least 20 years old in its earliest form and was updated 10 years ago, part of a study. And in that case, we're looking at the Quail Hollow PUD, which was adopted before that plan, and that parameter still dates back to 1986. So we're not dealing with new things. These are not decisions the township or the BZA are making that are fresh. They're based on old plans. Continue to be engaged in working on that local government formulation. The ad hoc committee's really working hard. And also did want to just mention Mayor Dennis Morley. Was working with him on that project, and the last couple of years got to know Mayor Morley, and even more so the last 6 or 9 months, and just he's going to be missed. He talk about a gentleman that put his all into his community. I mean, that man was so proud of Eastlake, and heard some people today talking about how the city really responded to his pride in Eastlake, and how the city got back some of its prestige, and how their own sense of community and self-pride, and that is truly the mark of a great leader, and heck of a nice guy who didn't let the little things bother him, saw past politics in a lot of cases, and just got it done. And you know, even if you weren't an Eastlake resident, you're going to miss Dennis Morley as a leader in this community. So wish his family and is the best. So with that concludes my remarks.
Thank you. Yeah, I would also like to extend my sympathy to Dennis Morley and his family. I got to work very close with him in the security committee for Willoughby Municipal Court. He was a great public servant. He was honest. He was really dedicated and committed, and he was just such a great individual to work with. So he will truly be missed. He's done a lot for not only Eastlake but Lake County, and you know, it's just it's horrible. But we extend our sympathy to him and his family. I would like to thank our road department for the great job they did during this adverse weather. They're always out there in full force and doing a great job, so thank you to them. I did receive some correspondence regarding the power outages, and I know we have identified some areas of concern there that we're working with First Energy on, and they've been great to work with, and we hope to rectify those issues. And I know if anybody had questions regarding the recent zoning at the BZA meeting, your recommendation would be great to watch that meeting, to get educated on how that PUD came into existence, and moving forward how things will work out. So with that, that's all I have, and we will move into departmental reports with administration.